What if I told you that behind the glittering facades of Fifth Avenue's luxurious mansions lay tragedies capable of destroying entire dynasties? The Gilded Age was a time when status was valued above human life, and a family's reputation could be destroyed by a single misstep. In this world, an engagement was not a union of hearts, but a complex financial transaction, the slightest mistake in which led to social ostracism and financial ruin. Watch the video to the end to find out how one ambitious mother destroyed her daughter's future for the sake of a dubious title, and what price women of that era paid for the right to call themselves aristocrats. To begin with, I will reveal to you the most closely guarded secret that made America's richest heiresses weep. At the end of the 19th century, a phenomenon arose that historians would later call dollar princesses. These were the daughters of American industrial magnates who had millions but no centuries-old pedigree. Their mothers, obsessed with social recognition, literally sold their daughters to impoverished European aristocrats in exchange for prestigious titles of dukes and counts. These unions often began with lavish engagements, behind which lay cold calculation and mutual dislike. The girls were raised like brood mares, prepared for a single purpose: a profitable marriage overseas. Their feelings were ignored, and their opinions were suppressed by the authority of their families and the iron will of their mothers. The engagement became a point of no return, after which the young American woman found herself in a foreign country, among people who despised her new wealth. She brought with her millions, which went to repairing crumbling castles and paying off her spendthrift husband's debts. In return, she received only cold treatment and strict etiquette, which turned her life into a gilded cage. Many of these marriages ended in scandals that reverberated around the world and cast a shadow on the family's reputation. The public infidelities of their husbands and the arrogance of their mothers-in-law drove young women to nervous breakdowns and deep depression. Instead of support, families in America often demanded that their daughters save face at all costs so as not to lose their hard-won status in society. Divorce in those days meant complete social death and expulsion from high society in both countries. Thus, the wealth of parents became not a blessing for their daughters, but an instrument of their own destruction. Do you think true nobility can be bought with money, or were these unions doomed from the start? Share your opinion in the comments. It is very important for us to know what you think about this historical injustice. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories about the secrets of high society. Are you ready to learn the truth about how America's richest family was brought to the brink of disgrace because of one engagement? Consuelo Vanderbilt was a recognized beauty and heiress to a colossal fortune, but her life belonged not to her, but to her mother, Alva. Alva dreamed of a duchess title for her daughter more than her happiness and chose the Duke of Marlborough as her husband. Consuelo was in love with another man and resisted this union until the very end, literally crying her eyes out at the altar. This engagement became a symbol of coercion and tyranny within the wealthiest family of the Gilded Age. The wedding took place, but it brought nothing but mutual suffering and years of gossip. Consuelo's mother resorted to deception and blackmail, feigning a terminal illness to force her daughter to agree to the marriage. All of New York whispered about the price paid for the title, and this seriously damaged the prestige of the Vanderbilts. The internal strife and the daughter's hatred for her mother became public knowledge, destroying the myth of the perfect aristocratic family. Wealth could not hide the fact that the atmosphere in the house was one of cold calculation and cruelty. The Duke of Marlborough made no secret of the fact that he had married solely for the money needed to maintain the Blenheim estate. He openly showed contempt for his wife, and she felt like nothing more than a tool for producing heirs to the title. The Vanderbilt family invested millions in this marriage, but in return received only cold politeness and alienation. Public opinion gradually changed, and what was once an enviable match came to be seen as a tragic mistake. The marriage eventually fell apart, leaving behind only bitterness and ruined relationships between loved ones. Do you think the mother had the right to control her daughter's destiny for the sake of social status? In the next chapter, you will learn how love for a mere mortal could lead to complete disinheritance and exile. It exceeded all my expectations when I studied the archives of those who dared to go against the rules for love. In a world where every step was regulated, love for someone outside one's circle was considered a crime against the family. An engagement to a governess, an actor, or an impoverished artist was perceived as a declaration of war on high society. Aristocratic families were prepared to take any measures, including forced treatment in psychiatric hospitals, to prevent such disgrace. But some daredevils still decided to take this step, knowing that only poverty and oblivion awaited them. Renouncing inheritance was the first and most effective tool of pressure used by angry parents. Young people were deprived not only of money, but also of the right to bear the family name and appear on the family estate. Former friends instantly turned away from the renegades, fearing to tarnish their own reputation by associating with them. Life in luxury was replaced by a modest existence, for which the pampered aristocrats were often completely unprepared. But behind the closed doors of small apartments, there was often more happiness than in the cold halls of palaces. Social ostracism was so severe that the names of lovers were crossed out of family books and lists of guests invited to balls. People stopped talking about them aloud, as if these people had never existed, and their portraits were hidden away in basements. Families preferred to consider their children dead rather than recognize their right to choose their own life partner. It was a quiet and cruel punishment designed to intimidate others and preserve the immutability of class boundaries. Real dramas unfolded in correspondence, where parents cursed their children for betraying their blood. Like this video if you believe that true love is worth giving up millions in titles for. Your support helps us find more and more rare and touching stories from the past. What I am about to show you is forbidden in 12 countries, if we are talking about the moral standards of that time. Secret promises and hidden engagements often became the perfect tool for blackmail and extortion. Young people, giving in to the impulse of their feelings, exchanged letters or rings, unaware that this could ruin their lives years later. In an era when a gentleman's word was legally binding, breaking a promise to marry could lead to a high-profile lawsuit. Adventurers and fortune hunters skillfully exploited these weaknesses to ruin wealthy families. Family lawyers spent years and vast sums of money buying back compromising letters from their clients' former lovers. A single careless document could cause a lucrative marriage to be canceled and close the doors of the best houses to the entire family forever. Blackmailers demanded not only money but also patronage, positions, or introduction into certain circles of society. Families often found themselves hostage to their own shadows, fearing that old sins would become public knowledge. It was an invisible war in which reputation was the most valuable currency. Sometimes family members themselves used secret information about each other to influence matters of inheritance or the distribution of influence. Brothers could blackmail their sisters with their past passions to force them to give up their share in favor of the men. The internal rot of aristocratic houses was often the result of such behind-the-scenes games and manipulations. Women were the most vulnerable, as their honor was a fragile commodity that could easily be ruined with a mere hint. All the glitz of the age of splendor was just a thin veneer of gilding over an abyss of lies and fear. Do you think it is possible to build a strong family if it is based on lies and mutual threats? In the next chapter, we will learn how those who lost everything coped with the consequences of public scandals. Newspapers at the end of the 19th century became a veritable punitive body for high society, eagerly seeking out any signs of cracks in aristocratic unions. The tabloid press paid servants huge sums of money for any information about quarrels, secret visits, or broken engagements. A single headline in the morning paper could turn a respected family into an object of ridicule and contempt for the entire city. Reporters literally stood guard at the doors of mansions, hoping to capture a moment of shame or overhear a snippet of scandalous conversation. Publicity became the main enemy of those who had been accustomed to hiding their secrets behind high fences for centuries. Previously, noble families could hide their internal conflicts from prying eyes for decades. However, with the advent of mass media, the private lives of the elite became the most sought-after commodity on the market. Footmen, cooks, and maids suddenly realized that their overheard conversations were worth more than a year's salary. Editors of tabloid newspapers did not hesitate to offer gold coins for information about which gentleman had returned home too late. Journalists even bribed postmen to be the first to find out the contents of private letters. Every word spoken behind closed doors could become public knowledge the very next morning. The press was especially cruel to women whose engagements were broken off by their fiancés. Society automatically considered such a girl to be spoiled, assuming that there were serious and discrediting reasons for the rejection. Newspaper reporters relished the details of her dowry, appearance, and behavior without caring about the damage this caused to her psyche. The unfortunate girl's family was forced to either leave for Europe in the hope of oblivion or lock themselves away behind closed doors. Public disgrace deprived the girl of any chance of a second respectable marriage and effectively put an end to her future. In those days, reputation was the only capital that allowed a woman to take her place in society. The slightest suspicion of frivolity, widely reported in the newspapers, instantly closed the doors of all respectable homes to her. Even if the breakup was the man's fault, public opinion still fell on the failed bride. Journalists described in detail the hysterics and fainting spells that allegedly befell the girl after the news was published. Relatives often spent their last money to print a retraction, but it rarely helped to save the situation. As a result, many broken victims of newspaper harassment spent the rest of their lives in complete solitude. Interestingly, the aristocrats themselves sometimes used the press as a weapon against competitors or undesirable relatives. Anonymous leaks and paid articles helped to disrupt unwanted engagements even before they were officially announced. There were no rules in this information war, and even the most influential clans could be powerless against the power of the printed word. Working-class readers eagerly followed the downfall of the powerful, finding a kind of moral satisfaction in it. Thus, the newspaper column became a scaffold for reputations that had been built over decades. Often, the heads of noble families themselves hired writers to discredit rival families in the eyes of the public. The confrontation between the old nobility and the new rich often spilled over into the pages of daily newspapers. Ordinary people read with delight about how debts, betrayals, and petty squabbles were hidden behind the outward glamour. Circulation grew at an incredible rate when the name of a famous count or prince appeared on the cover. People from the slums felt a sense of equality, realizing that the rich suffered from humiliation, no less than the poor. The newspaper business quickly realized that trading in other people's shame was much more profitable than dry political reports. Information worth millions was often hidden behind the doors of private mental hospitals, where rebellious brides were sent. If a girl flatly refused a lucrative engagement or insisted on marrying an undesirable person, she could be declared hysterical. Doctors of the time were eager to confirm such diagnoses in exchange for generous donations from influential fathers. It was the quickest and most reliable way to eliminate the problem without attracting the attention of the general public. The family would announce that their daughter had gone to the mountains or the seaside for treatment, while she was in fact being held in isolation. In these institutions, women were subjected to cruel procedures designed to break their will and make them obedient. Cold baths, complete silence, and a ban on correspondence were commonplace for such patients. Many returned from there as pale shadows of their former selves, ready to agree to any marriage just to avoid returning to the hospital. It was a form of legalized violence that society preferred to ignore in order to preserve the class system. The family's reputation was considered saved if the wayward daughter was cured and married off. However, sometimes such stories came to light, causing a wave of indignation even in the most conservative circles. If a girl managed to pass a letter to her friends, or if the doctor turned out to be an honest person, the scandal took on catastrophic proportions. The family that tried to hide the misalliance was put on trial by public opinion for its cruelty. But more often than not, the silence behind the walls of the sanatoriums remained unbroken, and the fates of women were broken forever for the sake of their parents' pride. Wealth and status gave power not only over things, but also over the lives of those closest to them. Are you ready to find out what happened next to those who managed to escape the control of their despotic families? In the next chapter, we will discuss how the exile's fates unfolded in the New World. For many aristocratic families in America, the only way to hush up a scandal after a failed engagement was to leave for Europe. It was believed that social standards on the old continent might be more lenient towards rich Americans with a little past. The family would rent a villa in Italy or a mansion in Paris, trying to start life with a clean slate. Daughters were presented at courts where they had not yet been written about in the local newspapers. It was an expensive escape that often depleted family budgets, but it offered a slim chance of saving their reputation. In Europe, such families often found themselves among a circle of similar exiles and adventurers from around the world. They created their own closed world, where everyone knew about their neighbor's sins but preferred to remain silent in exchange for mutual recognition. However, the true European aristocracy rarely accepted them into their circle, seeing them only as upstarts with tarnished reputations. This led to new disappointments and an even greater sense of loneliness among young women. They found themselves trapped between two worlds, unable to find their true place in either. Often such journeys ended with the girls being married off to impoverished, titled persons who were willing to turn a blind eye to any scandals for the sake of money. It was a new twist on the dollar princess cycle, only now with a hint of compulsion and hopelessness. The family in America could breathe a sigh of relief, considering the matter closed, but the woman's life turned into an endless series of formalities in a foreign country. The glitter of gold only emphasized the grayness and dreariness of her everyday life far from home. In an era of severe restrictions, lovers developed entire systems of secret signs to communicate during their engagement or after its breakup. The language of flowers, the special placement of stamps on envelopes, and hidden symbols in jewelry allowed them to convey their feelings without words. A ring worn on a certain finger could signify a willingness to elope or a final breakup. These details often escaped the attention of strict chaperones and vigilant mothers, but were perfectly clear to the recipient. It was a small area of freedom in a world where every step was controlled by society. Secret correspondence was the most dangerous and romantic element of such relationships, because the discovery of a letter meant immediate disaster. Women hid notes in the folds of their dresses, in books, or passed them on through bribed servants. Every word was imbued with fear and hope, and the very act of writing became an act of defiance. If the letters fell into the hands of the family, they became irrefutable evidence of guilt and a reason for severe sanctions. It is from these archives that we learn today the true stories of love and betrayal of that era. Jewelry also played an important role in this silent communication, serving as a kind of talisman or sign of fidelity. Medallions with locks of hair or miniature portraits were kept under clothing, close to the heart, as reminders of those whom society had forced to forget. Sometimes a brooch pinned at a certain angle at a ball would let the groom know the bride's mood or her parents' plans. These small details created a parallel reality in which real feelings lived, hidden from prying eyes. The fates of women whose fiancé died before the wedding or whose engagements were broken off due to the death of one of the parties were no less sad. In the society of the Age of Splendor, a bride in mourning was a tragic and at the same time suspicious figure. She was required to wear black for a long time, effectively retreating into the shadows and giving up social life. If the engagement was beneficial to the family, the death of the fiancé was perceived as a financial disaster, for which the girl herself was often blamed. She became a living reminder of a failure that the family wanted to forget as soon as possible. Many such women never married, remaining eternal brides and living under the care of relatives as dependents. Their youth faded away in caring for other people's children or in endless prayers, while life around them continued to rage. They became invisible shadows in large mansions. Their opinions ceased to be taken into account, and their needs were ignored. The family's wealth did not guarantee them comfort if they did not fulfill their main function, creating a successful union. It was a slow and quiet death of the soul in interiors of mahogany and silk. Society treated them with a mixture of pity and contempt, considering their lives a failure. The women themselves often bore this burden with dignity, finding solace in charity or art, but the bitterness of loss remained with them forever. Their stories rarely made it into the newspapers, as there were no sensational scandals, only the quiet tragedy of unfulfilled lives. It was yet another price women paid for the right to belong to the high society of the time. Looking back on the Age of Splendor, we realize that behind the outward glamour and luxury lay a harsh and often inhuman system. Engagements and marriages were merely tools in the struggle for power and status, where human feelings were sacrificed to the interests of the clan. Families that seemed to be the unshakable bastions of the aristocracy were often destroyed from within by their inability to accept their members' right to personal happiness. The true price of wealth was measured not in dollars, but in broken lives, lost years, and the broken hearts of women. These stories serve as a reminder that no amount of social recognition is worth losing touch with loved ones and giving up one's own identity. The Gilded Age is gone, leaving behind only magnificent palace museums and stacks of old letters that preserve the sense of the past. But the human dramas that played out within these walls remain universal and understandable to us even centuries later. We empathize with Consuelo Vanderbilt and thousands of nameless girls who were not afraid to seek love in a world where everything had its price. May these stories inspire us to value sincerity and freedom of choice in our own lives. The history of the aristocratic families of that time is not only a chronicle of glamour, but also an important lesson that true human greatness lies in the ability to empathize and love. Behind every facade is a person, and their story deserves to be heard and understood. We conclude our journey behind the scenes of the Age of Splendor, where luxury coexisted with profound personal tragedies. These stories of engagements that destroyed lives and families show us how important it is to remain human even under the weight of the most prestigious titles and vast fortunes. Please suggest topics for future videos that you would like to see on our channel in the comments. Perhaps you are interested in the secrets of other eras or the fates of specific historical figures? Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on new in-depth and emotional explorations of the past.